Roccy DeFrancesco, welcome to the BetterWealth Show.
Hey, thanks, Gail. Thanks for having me back on.
I made a video walking through the defamation, essentially, letter that I got from Curtis Ray's legal team. And what I shared at the end of that video is I'm taking the video down that you and I did, just because I don't necessarily want to fight in the legal courts. But what I did say at the end of that video is that I was going to have you on. We're not going to speculate. We're just going to go black and white what has happened since we recorded. And Washington cease and desist have happened. I believe you have 2 documents. You shared it with your newsletter of over 50,000 advisors on September 16th. And you're kind enough to come back on, and we would like to go through this. So I don't know if there's anything that you want to say before we jump into the document, but I know you have your opinions, your thoughts. I will also say that if you stay to the end, I have a very, very special update for people that are following the Curtis Ray videos that I'm doing. I have a very special update to share with you at the very end. But is there anything that you want to say, Rocky, as we set the stage? And then I don't think if there's a better person to dive into this and go through this than you. And then we're giving people that watch this video the ability to get the same documents that you have down below. So if you want to follow along or get these documents, you can check out the link down below. Anything you want to say before we jump in?
No, just that, I liked our other video. I don't necessarily blame you for taking it down. It's more of a cost-benefit analysis as to whether I don't personally think there's anything wrong with our video or anything defamatory in it. It was mostly opinion and fact, but whether somebody chooses to sue you or not, as an attorney, I always kind of welcome those because I don't have to pay attorneys to defend myself. So I always had a lot of fun with those because I would get those kind of emails or letters from, I got one from Ken Fisher when I put out his annuity guide. I actually got one from Robert Castellano when I started calling people leapers. So I've got those letters just like you received them. Unlike you, I'm like, giddy up, send me the lawsuit. I'll put it on the front of my website, and then I'll have you spend $50,000, whereas I don't have to spend $50,000. But I get it, and I don't blame you for taking it down. And this is really going to get us where we want to go anyways, which is really just talking about what the issue is here.
Yep. I think before we jump in, big picture, this is just your opinion. If you summarize your biggest problem with Curtis Ray and his marketing, and why don't you summarize that? This is your opinion. This is not a fact. And then we can go into black and white what actually happened in Washington, because I find that would be really interesting. And then we don't have to speculate. We can just see what lessons we can learn from that. And I think regardless of who you are, there's lessons to be learned. If you're in this profession or if you're a client to somebody, I think you can learn a lot by what we're going to go through in this video.
Yeah, I definitely think consumers and maybe even more so advisors can learn from what we're talking about here. But I mean, the reason that he got sanctioned by, got a cease and desist by the state of Washington was the way that he marketed, and that's what we're going to go through in the documents. So I won't expand too much on that, as I'll do it as we go through the documents. But the concept of what he's pitching is one that I've been warning advisors about for nearly 20 years. Warning in the sense that I've actually never seen it sold in a full disclosure manner, and I don't know how. Obviously, we know how Curtis is marketed because he got a cease and desist by the state of Washington on how he was marketing. But I've never talked to a client he's pitched it to. But very rarely are the pros and cons of this concept that he's pitching disclosed to the client. So we've taken an IUL product, Index Universal Life, and we really kind of considered a no risk product. I mean, could you lose money in it? Well, you can't lose money because of downturns in the market, because the floor is zero. We hope that we're going to get our gains locked in every year. And so this isn't an IUL video per se, but we'll take this no risk product and then we're going to add risk to it by adding leverage. We should do another video on premium finance life and all the ones that are blowing up out there. This is sort of self-premium finance life in a way. So the concept, I call it hyperfunding. It's been around for, again, over 20 years. I think I said this on the last video. I know the guy who pioneered it. His name was Jeff Cohen. As soon as these products came out, I give him credit. He figured out how to manipulate them to potentially get a better outcome. But to get that better outcome, you have to take risk to do it. And I don't want to take a no-risk product and turn it into a risk product. So there's a lot of things I don't like about the concept of hyperfunding. Could it work out? Sure, it could. But it also could work out to the client's detriment. And depending on the policy you're using and the terms of that policy, there could be even more danger to it, which again is outside the scope of this presentation. But I personally do a warning newsletter on the concept of hyperfunding every couple of years to my database of advisors, and it's sort of ironic that now we're talking about it today again in a different setting, and to go through the state of Washington orders, I think will be very interesting.
Cool. All right, let's dive into the state of Washington's orders.
All right, so you can see my screen here. So here we go, Curtis and his company, and sure enough, this is a real live order. It's signed by the Department of Washington's Insurance Department, and this is the original one. So this is the original cease and desist. So this is what the state of Washington would send out to somebody saying, "Hey, we don't like what you're doing. We'd like you to stop it," and then we'll deal with the consequences of that throughout the process. So. We have it. I've highlighted it here. So again, if you want to click on the link below this video, you can download this. You'll get the highlighted version because I'm just trying to save people from reading the whole thing and getting a big fat headache. So here's our companies, our people that we're dealing with. This is the insurance company that has been used by Curtis in the past. It's not one of the companies that we typically recommend ourselves. And as far as I know it's the only company in the industry that allows Curtis to sell these. Now, I could be wrong. If you want to ask him that, that's up to you. But I don't know of any other company that's doing this. In fact, several of the companies that we deal with have a standing position internally that they refuse to allow their advisors to pitch this. So whether it's Allianz or some of the other companies out there, if you call them and said, "Hey, you know what I really want to do is I want to go pitch clients hyperfunding," they would say, no, we'd prefer you not do that. In fact, if we find out that you are doing that, we're going to terminate you. So that really should tell the consumer a lot about, because insurance companies love premium. And this concept is very sexy. If I can make this look awesome on paper, which typically would mean that an insurance company would greenlight it because it can bring in more premium, when in fact, this is one of the few topics that the insurance company has said, no, we really don't want this because it could be a recipe for disaster. It also could, by the way, bring in more regulations on the illustration side as well, which is a secondary issue. But so as we go through here, the Department of Insurance opened up an investigation, which was interesting because it came from an insurance agent. That's really interesting, and maybe not as interesting to the consumers watching this, but if I'm an advisor, what does this mean? Be careful how you market yourself in your local marketplace. If you're doing things that are on the edge or that another advisor might consider underhanded, or in this case, they allege that the advisor was perpetrating a fraud, which is one of the worst terms you can be associated with in any industry, what's the industry? I want to disparage car dealers, but what's the one industry we expect, to be, shoveled a bunch of junk by a salesperson? It's the car industry. Well, one that's not too far behind it is the insurance industry. Yep. The trust level of a CPA is very high. I'm an attorney. Not everybody likes attorneys, but there's a trust level with attorneys as well, for the most part. The trust level is much lower with insurance agents. So having fraud associated with your name is not a good thing. So the insurance agent alleged that there was being a fraud put on the consumers across the nation by disguising an index universal life policy as a Curtis Ray product. There's nothing unique about this product. That was part of the problem that the Department of Insurance had, which was, he's kind of marketing this as something very unique and something you can only get through Curtis Ray. And in fact, any insurance agent who gets licensed with Mutual of Omaha can sell the same exact product, and assuming that Mutual of Omaha allows it, sell it the same exact way. And so that was part of the fraud, the deceitfulness, if you will, of the marketing. So, I'm just going to go through and read some of these highlighted areas. So it's not this is from his marketing. It's not a typical type of life insurance policy. Yes, in fact, it is. It's exactly typical as many of the other ones. In fact, I would argue, if you wanted to do hyperfunding, there's several other products in the marketplace. If the company allowed it, would get a much better outcome than Mutual of Omaha, which is totally ironic. But that's for another day. So we've got some compound interest. We've got IUL 2.0. When you say IUL 2.0, it sounds like something unique. Again, it's not unique.
Yeah.
We have additional features and benefits not currently found in other policies. Wrong. You can find them in any policy, including the one that you're using. They also didn't like the term holistic retirement plan, which I think is very interesting, especially for the insurance agents who have a habit of calling cash value life a retirement plan, whether it's whole life or variable life, although I think maybe you get away with it a little more with variable, but or index universal life. Index universal life is not a retirement plan. It's a product that can be used in the context of a retirement plan. It is not a retirement plan in and of itself. The Department of Insurance didn't like that. A superior retirement income. No, it's not superior to anything else. In fact, I would say it's inferior to other products if their companies, again, would allow you to do hyperfunding. Can't be overstated the power, blah, blah, blah. They didn't like the term relock, which is basically relocating money that you're going to borrow from the policy and put back in premium. They didn't like that.
Internal leverage, essentially.
Internal leverage. So they told him to stop using his term relock. No other retirement plan, don't ever say that. No other retirement plan can provide this benefit. First of all, A, it's not a retirement plan. And B, you know what? If I get my calculator out and I do a whole bunch of other planning with a whole bunch of other stuff, you'd be surprised at what I can come up with to show you that something else may in fact look better than this. So these are the things that the Department of Insurance in Washington didn't like about how he was advertising his plan to the consumers in the state of Washington, I think mainly through the internet. So, okay. Investment vehicle. Never, ever, ever use the term investment vehicle with a fixed product. It's not an investment. It's a fixed insurance product. And in fact, that's a great way to have everybody come down on you, including the state securities department. So don't like using that term either. So let's see what else we have here.
And that's something that if people follow this channel for a while, like they probably roll their eyes because I constantly say like insurance is not an investment. But the reason we highlight that is it's so important too, because there is a lot of people in whole life and IUL, believe it or not, that try to pitch it as an investment vehicle. And I get what they're trying to do is they're the same thing that Curtis is trying to do is like talk about like even when he's using language like this is not a typical or this is superior, he's allegedly saying is like, hey, when all these benefits are working together, it gives you a quote unquote better outcome. But it's like,
it's really apples and oranges, right? That's what you're getting at. It's like with an index universal life policy, which I love it as an asset class, right? It's just an asset class. You can buy real estate, you can buy investments, you can buy cash value life, you can buy an annuity, fixed or variable. So I love it as an asset class, but it's just that it is not investment. Right. So I think you're right on point to discuss that in your other videos with advisors as well as consumers. So interestingly, I'm guessing this is the client that this advisor who made the complaint found and why they made the complaint. I don't know that for a fact, but I'm guessing that here. So what is it saying here? That this plan, the strategy was sold to a policyholder 1 year later. The client said, hey, I don't have the money to fund this thing. And by the way, I also bought policies on my kids and I can't afford it for them either. Now, I would love to learn what we were told by this document that Mutual of Omaha, the client was unable to obtain a refund. I don't know if that in fact was the end conclusion. If I was Mutual of Omaha, I'd have been stroking this check back to the client to get out of the lawsuit that could possibly come. But I don't know what ultimately came from that. But it's interesting to note that in this complaint, it seems like it came from a client who got sold this concept, didn't have the money to fund it, unfortunately bought it on their kids as well, and is really going to get a bad outcome. So
can I also just speculate on something here?
Sure.
I see the premium is at $4,000. Is that the premium that was paid last? So again, one of the criticisms, there's a difference between accredited investors, people that have a lot of money, versus people that maybe aren't accredited, maybe don't have a certain net worth, don't make a certain amount of money. And it's one of those things where a lot of times these regulatory agencies don't just look at the net dollars, they look at the sophistication of the person. And what this shows is you mentioned that hyperfunding can be a way to do premium finance, but internal in the policy. And a lot of times these insurance companies, whether you like it or not, I would love to do a video with you about premium finance and some of the potential flaws in that, is they have a certain net worth limit. Like a lot of companies, you need to have like a 10 million. Some of these companies are pushing it up to like $15 million. And that's their way of saying, hey, we'll entertain this, but we want you to have a ton of money to be able to, if something doesn't work out, weather the storm. Right. What this shows me is this, I'll just say allegedly, this person at a $4,000 premium probably is not in the same bucket of being worth $15 million. And as a result, I know that in the past there were videos that almost made MPI as like the sole solution. And you can see where people would put all their money into this. And that is one of the other issues is like, yes, does hyperfunding potentially work? Yeah, I
Well,
mean, you even said
look,
in the
let me
initial.
follow up that really quickly, which is right here that I have underlined. The
Yep.
best retirement possible, right?
Yeah.
So if it's the best retirement possible, why would I want to fund anything else?
Yeah, put all your money in that, and
Put all
that's
your money.
that's the, and that's what I also ultimately like opened up our initial interview on, is when anyone overhypes anything, to like be careful, and that got
Yeah.
me in trouble. But at the end of the day, it's just like there's no magic bullet, and that should be a good lesson regardless of where you're, like, if any investment, any insurance product, if anyone's coming to you, be very careful if you hear that this is the end all be all, because most likely time will be the greatest equalizer and it won't turn out. So like, you get back. That was like my mini soapbox.
Yeah, no, they're all good points. You have secured your retirement dream. Well, apparently that lady had not secured her retirement dream, right? So, look, in my normal day job, when I educate and mentor advisors and work with consumers, I'm not a huge fan of asset allocation in the securities market, stocks and bonds and those sort of things, but I'm a huge fan of allocation of your money, meaning what? There's nothing wrong with cash value life as a bucket. There's nothing wrong with real estate as a bucket. There's nothing wrong with stocks. Do you know what I'm saying? So when I do
Yep.
talk about asset allocation, I broaden that outside of the securities industry to say other things. So nothing wrong with a bucket. But what I see far, far too often, especially it's even more problematic with older clients when you're using any kind of cash value life, including index universal life. Man, if you ran into like a 55-year-old, I can make it look good on paper. Curtis can make hyperfunding look even better on paper. But if it doesn't work out for a 55-year-old, and this was their savior to make up for all the lost time, and it was the one that didn't work, and it was what they mainly funded, first of all, I think the agent should get sued. But it really has screwed up that client's life. That's why I don't like to see IUL sold to older clients, and I don't like IUL sold as the solution as the end all be all. So let's see what else we can do here. So now we're going to get into the statutes, if you will, of what the state didn't like. This statute says we're going to provide advertisements that shall be truthful and misleading. Well, the fact that we're having this discussion means that the state of Washington thought that these ads were what? Not truthful, and that they were misleading. That's why he got the cease and desist. So, these are all problematic. Things that have a tendency to mislead. What got this thing started was the unfair competition angle right here in the middle, that he's creating an appearance of what he has as something unique when it's not, and it's really an unfair competition against his fellow insurance agents and financial planners. That's really what got the ball moving. So want to avoid things like that, of course. Deceptive, they're prohibited by the code. Let's see what else we got here. Things that are false. I mean, again, you just don't want these things associated with your name, but they will stay with you for a long, long time. Misrepresentation is an awful word, right? So ultimately, the state is saying that the ads were dishonest, that they were coercive, that they were creating an unfair competition against his fellow competitors, and that the state basically said, look, you need to stop this right now. And we want you to, strip all the stuff off your websites, clean everything up, and then we want to give you a fine. And in this case, they were looking for a $10,000 fine. Should be more than $1,000, but there's your $10,000 fine. So what ultimately ended up happening, at least is my understanding of it, is Curtis did the best job. I think he tried to scrub his websites. Now, that was a big undertaking because that was the majority of his websites, as far as I understand it. I mean, he had so much stuff on there that drove home his narrative, and he's an awesome marketer. You got to give him the fact that he's an awesome marketer. So he was supposed to go ahead and scrub everything, take it all down from the web, pay his fine, and then we move to the next document, which is, this is the consent order. Now it's going to rescind the cease and desist. What does that mean? It means that the court is going to take Curtis at his word, that he took all of this stuff down, that he is complying with the laws of the state of Washington from a marketing perspective, and they're going to allow him to go back and do business as long as he pays his fine. So that's what ended up happening. Now, ironically, I've had some email back and forth with Curtis because I always like to give people an opportunity to comment on stuff. And it took me literally less than 5 or 10 seconds to find stuff that I would think that is still on the web that violated this order. And I don't think he had it up there on purpose, but I emailed him like, hey, dude, do you know that these things are on the web still? And I think this violates your order, your consent order. I'm not sending this to the Department of Insurance because I don't really, it's not that I don't care, but that's not what I do. And I said, you might want to go find this stuff. And he's like, well, where did you get that? I'm like, well, I just found it on the web. Google yourself. It only takes a minute. So ultimately, he ended up taking down the stuff that I found as well. So my guess is that he's made a good faith effort to comply with this order, which is great. At least we'll hope, well, in my opinion, well, not my opinion, my hope is that it curbs his ability to sell the stuff. I mean, he's not necessarily a competitor to me. I don't work really in his space, but I don't like hyperfunding. So I don't think it's sold typically in a full disclosure manner, which is really what this complaint is all about. So I would love to see it go away. I'm sure he'll still make a living. I'm sure that he'll still tout this is the greatest thing since sliced bread, but we'll try to do it within the confines of what this order says. And then ultimately, if you want to know, basically this stuff is just reiterating what was in the other order. You get to the end, and then you have his signature, his DocuSign, where he has agreed to this. He's agreed to the fine, and there you have it. So we have a national marketer of Index Universal Life being shut down from a marketing perspective by a state Department of Insurance. We have the insurance agent agreeing that his marketing was misleading and false, and he took it down and he paid his fine. And now we'll see what the industry thinks of what he's doing going forward.
The couple questions. The $10,000 fine, is that standard? It seems arbitrary to me, but what in the past, because
I think it's actually quite standard.
Okay.
Because I've read a lot of other orders like this, not necessarily the same as this one, but where the fine typically happens to be $10,000. One of them was the one that really will get people's attention in the insurance agent market is when you're funding a fixed insurance product. I'm going to fund an indexed annuity. I'm going to fund an indexed universal life product. Where did the money come from? What do you mean, where did the money come from? Well, where did the money come from? Did it come from the client's bank account? Did the client have to sell securities to fund the fixed product? That's an interesting question. So there's been fines in 3 different states, and usually they're $10,000 where they were fining insurance agents because the money, the state said they violated the source of funds rule, and the source of funds rule is just what I asked. Where did the source of the funds come from to fund the indexed annuity or fund the indexed life product? Well, it came from the sale of security. Well, we think that violates the source of fund rule because you don't have a securities license, and they fine the agent $10,000. So it is a number that I see quite often.
It's interesting in the letter that I went through in my other video, timestamp 1546. We talk about you talk about the calculator, and you have some choice words on it. And one of the points that they said that the reason that this is misleading is that the calculator reference is not currently shown on the MPI website anywhere else. And I kind of chuckled. I'm just assuming that was one of the things that they took down through this process. Do you have a comment on that, or is my assumption, you think, accurate, or do you think it's just a coincidence that they're no longer showing that calculator that we saw at the time when we did the video?
Actually, when I had a little email exchange with Curtis, I thought he said that he took down the old one that he had, which was supposedly telling a client what they might be able to expect, and I thought he put up sort of a more generic one. So I haven't been to his website lately, but I'm pretty sure he took down the what
The
we
one
would
we were
consider.
referencing.
Yeah, exactly. The one that we were referencing. And I think maybe he's got a more generic one up, but I haven't been there to check it out.
Well, we will have both of those links down below, or we'll have a link down below for you to be able to check out the documents that we covered. What I wanted to share just with everyone watching is to Curtis's credit, he did reach out to me after the video, my initial video, just responding to the letter that I got from his attorneys, and I expect to have him on later this week. And so I just wanted to set the stage of if you're following this channel, if you subscribe to this channel, you'll make sure to see that when that drops. I'll be able to ask him about his legal letters of defamation, and I'll also get to ask him about the Washington cease and desist. Rocky, is there any questions that you would like to indirectly ask Curtis? I can ask on your behalf. Is there any questions that you would ask?
So probably, I mean, you're just going to go over the ABCs of the ones that the answers that you're looking for are questions like, did you know it was false? Did you know it was misleading? Obviously you agreed that it was false and misleading and deceptive, right? That's your leading question, which is very difficult for somebody to come out of their mouth. Yes, I put out false, misleading, deceptive content. It's hard for somebody to say that, but that's essentially what he's agreed to in the order. I would do that on video just for fun, but I don't have any substantive questions to ask Curtis. I have my own software. I can run all the numbers he's running. I've been doing it longer than Curtis has been in the industry, so I don't have any substantive questions that I need to ask Curtis.
Okay. And your summary is that you're just not a big fan of what he's promoting. And he's kind of got two things. There's some people that promote this, but they're not good marketers. And so they can kind of skate under the radar for a while because they're just meeting individual people. And you kind of roll your eyes when you see some of what they're promoting, but it's not like they're all over. Curtis's biggest blessing was potentially not such a blessing in disguise because he blew up on TikTok, over 1 million subs on TikTok, and has people on YouTube and books. And so he's promoting all this, which creates a bigger target, which is just exposes or amplifies, or to use his word, leverages his message out. And that can be awesome, but that also can be not so awesome if people on the other end don't appreciate that message. And it's essentially, you're alleging, it doesn't say this in the document, but probably that person that felt like they funded the $4,000 premium, they funded premiums on their kids, they didn't have the money to fund, they felt like it was misleading, probably talked to an agent helped complain on behalf of that client, and then the state of Washington sent that letter. That obviously that may or may not be the truth, but that's the the thing that kind of brought this to the forefront. And you're under the opinion where it's like, hey, I hope he stops his ultimate strategy, because it's the marketing is what's exposing it, but what he's still teaching to this day, you're not a fan of. And I think you've been pretty clear in this video, and the video that we took down, you were pretty clear that you're not a fan, and that is something that aged pretty well. Since we've shot that.
That's
video.
right. Well, yeah, right. That's always fun. Like, I've been warning against this for a long time, and have something happen with it. But you could ask other questions like, has any other Department of Insurance contacted you? You could ask them specifically what happened to this lady. Did she get her money back? Did she end up suing you? How many other clients? You could ask all sorts of questions. I don't know if that's the kind of inquiry you want to do with them. How many other lawsuits have you had? Or how many lawsuits have you had? How many clients end up having this blow up? Whether you're going to get truthful answers or not.
Yep. No,
isn't something you're going to be able to fact check. So that's why.
No, go on.
Well, that's why you be careful with these kind of interviews, because then it gets on the web, and then he gives his opinion, and then you can't fact check it. Ultimately, lawsuits typically do come down on people like this.
Yeah.
And then you find them, then you do the fact check video. But my opinion of giving Curtis a forum to continue to show.
Just to be clear, Rocky was not the one who came up with the idea to have Curtis back on. Here's the way that I see it, and I shared this in the video. I know that you haven't seen the video yet because of when we're recording this, but I welcomed Curtis to have a dialogue, and I think that our audience is smart enough to be able to see intent. And I have no idea what is going to be said, but I've been really clear where my stance is, and we've kind of shared. And I would much rather have a conversation versus having attorneys or having letters. And so one of the questions I will ask him is why this was sent, and if he regrets that, or what his thoughts around that is. And so we'll see where that goes. But Rocky, I appreciate you.
I watch it, even though I didn't vote for it.
I appreciate you, and I also look forward to the other videos that we're doing. And I'm just excited to get more content with people that, you and I don't agree on everything. And I think it's awesome to have a platform to be able to expose really good ideas, talk about things, and really elevate financial IQ. And so we'll have links down below. If you want to learn more about Rocky, what he's up to, we'll have links there. But most importantly, if you want to follow along with those documents, you'll be able to have that chance. And make sure to subscribe and leave your thoughts and comments. We read every single comment. And also, if you have video ideas, you're like, hey, I would love for you guys to make a video around this, please let us know. If you're not subscribed to Rocky's email newsletter and you're an advisor, make sure to do that. And we will see you next time. Thank you.